Hello there, morons. It's Victor, Gimme a Break Man, Give Me a Flake Man, the king of the morons. Remember, morons on this channel is a term of endearment. It just means we are just doing our best to be a little bit smarter every day, though we have to admit that we know less than we do know, right? The amount of things that we don't know is far outweighs the things that we do know, so we are, by definition, morons. Anyway, today I am in a temple, and this is a laundry video. For those of you who are new, because I got this guy, a new guy yesterday named I forgot what his name was, Belarus or something, but Burmese, I think his name was Burmese, and he was like, you keep veering off the subject, man, stay on topic. Well, that's not this kind of video. So that's kind of your video you were looking for. Click off now, or keep your mouth shut forever. Like a wedding, you know? Hold your peace. Okay, anyway, I'm in a beautiful little temple here. Before we start off, let me just give you a view. But this is a laundry video, which means you don't really have to watch, nothing much to hear. You know what my face looks like. But for those of you who are interested in the view, I will walk around the neighborhood and show you where I am, you know. Show you a little view of the Japanese scenery. Not a big deal for those of you who live in Japan. Beautiful trees here. This is a really nice little temple. These are all over the place. Here's something I thought was interesting. This is a kind of a good luck charm. You get them at the Hadaka Matsuris, the naked festivals, which are held every year. Well, there's a few of them in Japan. This is one that I've taken part in a couple times. And you get the naked guys that rip that off their body and give it to you. And that's good luck. And then when you're done with it, you hold it for about a year. Then you bring it to a temple and they'll burn it for you. But anyway, so for the amount, you know, Japan is really crowded, but one of the amazing things about Japan is that although all the houses are squished together, there's always room for temples. Look at all this expansive space here that they have, right? Right? Look at that. Just all this space here. You can play soccer here, and actually kids do play. I wouldn't be surprised if after school kids will come here and play soccer or throw the baseball around. I've seen it happen quite a few times in my neighborhood. But anyway, as you can tell by the title, let's get to that because I'm sure some of you are salivating, biting at the bit for this. This is actually, this video comes to you thanks to a Patreon member who asked me to make it. And being a supporter for over a year now, I'm actually pretty late making this. I wanted to avoid actually making this one because it's a video response to a video by a YouTuber that I basically, I feel like I should give you full disclosure. I honestly don't want to interact with because my past interactions with him have left a sour taste in my mouth. Not sour, just I don't really care. But I feel like this guy just can't take any kind of criticism or even disagreement without, you know, taking it personally. So, but that actually will have an effect on it does taint the way I interpret his video, of course. So this is a video response to a guy named Japan Channel DCOM, who lives actually near here, if I remember correctly, though I don't know where. We sometimes come across the same backgrounds in our videos when we're moving around. Not much though. I mean, in the past, I don't know. He could have moved. I haven't watched one of this guy's videos for years. So enough of that. But those of you who've been with the channel a long time, you might remember that we had some disagreements with him. I had some disagreements with him. I just watched one of his videos. One of the things that kind of annoys me about his videos is he says we and our. We and our. So I'm not going to say we and our. I'm going to say me and my and I, and I'm just going to take responsibility for my opinions. They're tearing down a house here, an old house here. Look at that. They're emptying it out. I guess they're going to tear it down soon. Oh, I'm sure there's some treasures in there that a lot of you would enjoy. Let's see what the garbage is like. Whoops. I don't know what's in there. No, that doesn't look very interesting. Anyway, okay, I just came back from the nursery school. I just got to mention this real quick to you. I am a king with this shirt. My son picked out the shirt today. I said, you pick out the shirt. What t-shirt you want me to wear? And he picked out this t-shirt. And it was a big hit with all the other kids. I am a star with 1-year-olds. Yes. Some would argue that is my intellectual level, so how appropriate. Anyway, okay, so enough rambling. Though this is a laundry video, I will cut to the chase. Cheating in Japan and marriage in Japan. The channel The channel.com video says a lot of things that are actually applicable, and I agree with a lot of it. There are 3 episodes on this topic. I've only seen the first 2. This video to bring you a more concise and more watchable video for those of you who are not used to the laundry format, which of course is a kind of a podcast where you don't actually have to watch, you just listen. But I did want to keep that opening because that template is very nice. But let me get to the topic at hand, which is marriages in Japan, international marriages. Number 1, you should not be taking any advice off anyone on the internet. We do not know your particular situation, so it's kind of ridiculous to be asking strangers, what should I do? Should I get married to this woman? You know, we don't know her, we don't know you, we don't know the dynamic, we don't know your financial situations, we don't know your life goals. I mean, we're not marriage counselors, so to send emails to me or to that other guy, the guy I'm doing the video response to, it's kind of silly. We can speak in generalities about it because a lot of you are curious, I'm sure. But, you know, in the end, it's stupid to be taking any advice off anyone on the internet unless you have had quite a few interactions with them or you have a really specific question. But I'd like to address general statements made in that video, which is, let's go in order. Let me see. Number 1, okay, cultural differences in Japan. And whether you should consider getting married to someone he says you shouldn't consider marrying someone in Japan because of the cultural differences. Well, I would argue that that's all irrelevant because in the end all the cultural differences will fade away and you will be left with 2 naked people, quite literally. It's just you, and what I mean by naked is I don't actually mean I mean physically too, but mentally, you know, at the end of the day, it's just you and her, and you've got to deal with each other. And whether you fit or you don't, there have been, you know, millions of instances of people who have succeeded and failed despite their cultural differences. So all those statistics are irrelevant at the end of the day because it's just 2 of you. You're not statistics. He says that the culture, he also doesn't want to blame anyone. He says it's not anyone's fault. Oh, no, let me see, what was it? Something about, often it's cultural. The reason is cultural, but because of there's a communication problem, yes. A lot of that, yeah, that does happen. There's a communication problem and you've got to be aware of that. But it's not just, oh yeah, look at that. It's not just a communication problem. We're going to go into the depths of but remember, you don't have to watch, but if you want to watch, we're going to go into a graveyard right now. So, communication and cultural aspects of a relationship, how important are they? Of course they are very important, but it's not just that, it's also where you are at the time of your life when you decide to get married. What I mean is, I waited till I was almost 40 to get married. Why? Because I just wasn't ready, and though when I was young, I did meet a girl a couple times who I think I've been engaged a couple times, and a lot of it was super romantic and super passionate. And although I'm still a very passionate person, but that can often lead you to make mistakes. Now, here's something that is going to be a kind of a weird way to approach the decision of whether to get when and who to marry. What I'm referring to is your age. When you are young, you are more prone to making passionate decisions, and you might feel that you love somebody very, very much, and you want to marry them. And I've felt that way too. I've proposed on that feeling of passion. I love you so much, kind of thing. But you really need a relationship you need to give a relationship time. And time will tell you whether or not you are really ready for that and for that person. So the more time you spend with someone, the more you will be able to tell whether you really want to be with that person. Unfortunately, a lot of you who do write me and us letters on the internet, spider webs everywhere. You are often in the midst of a very romantic relationship. Oh my God, look at these spider webs here. Sorry about that, getting off the topic there. I know some people don't like that, but you're in the middle of a passionate, of a wave of passion. You're like, I want to marry this person so badly. I'm so in love. But give that a couple years. Give that a couple years. Give that some experience, and you may change your mind. Here's something that's kind of hard to calculate. They say that people who do not, statistically speaking, of course, which is interesting to consider, but again, in the end, you're not a statistic. They say that people who get married immediately and do not live together first have a lower rate of divorce. The reason being is that people who live together first know they are not married and they know they can get out of it any time. So when they have a hardship and they're only living together, they're like, oh, forget it, I'm just going to get divorced. I'm just going to break up with this guy. We're not going to get married. So I said that wrong. People who live together first often end up not getting married compared to people who just get married and they have a higher rate of success. So because marriage is a commitment, and most people respect that commitment, though not everyone. So when you do get married, if you go into the relationship with equal respect for the institution that marriage is and does represent to many people, but not everybody, of course, then you have a higher chance of that marriage lasting, right? The problem is a lot of people don't respect the institution of marriage, and I'm not saying you should. I'm not going to say that you have to. It's up to you. Often divorce is better than marriage. Not better, not better. I have an Australian friend who had a divorce party when him and his wife got married. So, anyway, what I mean is, of course, sometimes if it doesn't work out and divorce is the only option, it's not the end of the world, right? But some people tend to regard marriage as something to do once in your life at least, and you can always get out of it, and they don't really go into it with too much. They don't take it seriously, right? So I've known a few people who've been married 2 or 3 times, and Japanese as well. I've known even young Japanese women who got married and they're like, well, I didn't like it, so we got divorced. No big deal. At the end of the day, the cultural difference is there, but it's not going to make or destroy the marriage. It's going to be you two individuals and how much effort you put into it. It is work. After watching the video this morning, I asked my wife, because he says, when they ask his wife, is marriage to a foreigner hard? She always says yes, and he always says yes too. So I asked her, I said, is it hard being married to me or hard being married to a foreigner? And she said, she said, no, just marriage is tough. She doesn't even think about me that way. And her family doesn't either. So I hang out with her family almost every Sunday. I have a brother here in Japan, actually, and he has a family as well, and I don't actually hang out with him very much. A lot of it's distance. He's just a little bit farther. His family's closer, and also, effort. Her family puts much more effort into seeing me because they're retired and they're older, right? Than my brother, who has his own family and his own worries and bothers and his own group of friends. So, we spend a lot of time with her family. But the point being, my gaijin-ness, my cultural differences do not come up very often. I'm just the fun. They have kids too. She has a brother and 2 kids you've seen on this channel before. And I'm just the fun uncle, and I go out with them, and things are a little bit different, but it's mostly my personality, I think. I don't know. What would a Japanese Victor be like? Who the hell knows, Probably be the same, except speak better Japanese, I guess. So at the end of the day, the cultural difference is an aspect of it, but it's it's not going to make or break the relationship. That will be the relationship is made or broken on your individual dynamics and your individual chemistry and all that. But marriage is an effort, period. So if you're not ready for marriage, you're not ready for marriage, right? And there's plenty of cases of divorce all over the world. Okay, that's one of the first things. Another aspect that he brings up in the video is jealousy and cheating. And he says that jealousy in Japan is really a big no. To even indicate you're jealous at all is a big no-no. I would argue that I think again it's a bit cultural. Some women for some reason think having a jealous boyfriend is cool. I've always thought it's a sign of insecurity. When I was younger, I had my jealous times. When I realized later that it's just jealousy is really, it points to your own insecurities, and I was able to overcome that. It was really hard though, but there was a relationship I think I destroyed here in Japan because I was really jealous, and a lot of that is a reflection of your own insecurities and the way you are. So I had this girl I was crazy about, and we went skiing with her, and I couldn't ski. It was my first time, right? And she had a friend who came along, and he obviously liked her, and he was he was showing her how to ski, and I got really jealous, and it became a problem. But the funny thing is, that particular girl, I realized later was always looking to move up, you know, to a higher relationship, and she actually would move to maybe up is not the right reason, but she would, yeah, well, I don't know. Anyway, we broke up like a few times when she moved up, and then she realized she had made a mistake and came back, but it was a tidal wave of it was a roller coaster. It was a roller coaster, not a tidal wave, a roller coaster. But that was just her, and you'll meet a lot of people like that too. I mean, they're human beings. Japanese are not like these really bizarre creatures. They're just, in the end, they're just human beings, and there are people like that all over the world. I think even if you read like Atlas Shrugs, the whole thing with her is like she keeps moving up to a better man. So one theory about women in general of mine has been often that they are a little bit like remote controls. Once they're done with this program, they're quite capable of switching the channel to another one, and leaving very little residual emotion behind. Whereas it's been my experience that men who are in love can't seem to change the program. They just get stuck on it, and they suffer. Why did they cancel my TV show? Why did she break up with me? Kind of thing. I'm getting a little bit off subject though, but let me see. Jealousy is bad. Yes, I agree. Being jealous and showing jealous feelings in Japan is a no-no. I don't think any more than any other country. But again, there are some countries where it's supposedly more romantic. I have this image of you guys know I'm Latino, but I have this image of Latinos being more acceptable in Latin countries. And in fact, I think up until like 15 or 20 years ago, it was acceptable to kill someone in Spain in a duel if he cheated on you, or if your wife, like some guy slept with your wife. I think you could actually challenge him to a duel and shoot him. I mean, that's the kind of mentality that was acceptable up to 20 years ago or so. I could be wrong about that, but whatever. A lot of people would agree with that kind of shit, and that kind of shit happens all the time. You get jealous. I mean, lovers quarrels and spats, and people beat the shit out of each other and shoot each other and kill each other because they're so jealous. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. Is Japan worse or less? I don't know. If you have an honest relationship and you're open about things, then that kind of feeling is going to be minimalized though in the end. But I'll agree with him, it's kind of a weakness. But if you have a healthy relationship, there's no reason for it, right? So he does, in the second episode, he talks about a woman who was supposed to call him like at 4 a.m. I don't remember, in the middle at a certain time, not 4 a.m. for that. He made a deal with his girlfriend. She's going to call him, and she didn't call, and he's hanging out with his buddies, and he's like, she didn't call, I wonder where she is, and they're all making fun of him. Oh, she's jealous, and he took it really to heart. Like, he seems to have really been bothered by it. I would argue that that's kind of his insecurity at the time. Konnichiwa. Konnichiwa. 失礼します。何してるんですか？
これをね、前1個はね、
ああ、いっぱいあったね。
あれが倒れたんだわ。
あ
一回ね。
あ、倒れたか。
でもあれを撤去したら、明治高校の人が これ天場でちょっと炊き方こそ聞いてくれして。
ああ、仕事だ。いいね。大変ね、この暑さで。じゃあ、頑張って。お邪魔して。お邪魔しました。So, the big tree fell over there and knocked over these other trees. So the Nagoya city came by and said, they asked him to cut down all these trees up there so it doesn't happen. So all the tops of the trees have been cut down. I don't know if you guys can see that. But a lot of crows live over here by the river. Anyway, this is going to be a long one. Look at that, power saws. If you guys want to do a little horror movie stuff here. Okay, so jealousy, yes. Yeah, so it seemed to me that that jealousy issue was more of his insecurity, the video maker. But of course, I don't know at all. But I have a relationship with my wife now where there's no reason ever to be jealous. And here's another weird thing that I thought, that at first I thought was pointing to a real problem in his relationship, but then I realized that it does exist, but it's, well, let me explain. So he says sometimes wives will go off and husbands will go off and they'll go to their high school reunions and stuff and disappear for a couple of days and stuff. And you're not supposed to ask where they were, where they stayed and things like that. And I thought that's bizarre and not true at all. And if my wife, and it's happened very rarely, maybe ever? Has it ever happened? I don't think it's ever happened. She went to a concert last Tuesday night with her friends. It was some band that she used to like in high school, and she was like, "Can I go? Well, mostly can I go because basically, can you babysit the baby? Can you take care of the baby so I can go?" Of course, I'm gonna let her go. She doesn't need to ask permission, but I'm happy to make her happy. Who did she go with? I'm assuming her friends. I didn't ask. Oh, there's a cage here. I didn't ask, but there's no one in the cage. Oh, they must be trying to catch something. What are they catching? Tanuki? What is this for? I have to read that. Look at that. Bait. But it's still open, so he hasn't come up yet. Oh, maybe I should come back and check that out sometime. That's new. You sometimes see tanuki and kiji here. I forgot, pheasants here, beautiful pheasants. So I didn't ask. I didn't particularly care. It was one of these pop groups from when she was in high school. It was kind of a silly group that she used to be into, and she thought it would be fun to go out with her friends. I had no reason to suspect her at all. So I didn't, and I don't care. She was gone for like 2 hours at a concert. I dropped her off in front of the concert. There's sometimes no reason to ask unless you suspect something. If you suspect something and you're suspicious, then, well, I guess that's the problem with your relationship. I will sometimes go out at night and do my comedy shows. You guys know I do stand-up comedy sometimes, and I'll go out and I'll stay out 3 or 4 hours at a time. Maybe even like this weekend I'll be gone for 6 hours. She doesn't care who I'm hanging out with. It's always guys. Basically, we trust each other. We know each other well enough that we know we're not going to go do something stupid. So, but I was thinking about what he said, and it's true. I've known quite a few married women who will go off somewhere without their husbands to other cities and have fun. Now, of course, they don't tell me I'm having an affair or anything. But there was one woman who I know whose husband was actually seeing a white hostess girl. This is like 24 years ago. Her husband was this rich guy, and he was dating my buddy's friend, who was a hostess, and they were having sex. She would tell me that it was funny because after sex she'd try to touch his hair, and she's like, "Don't touch my hair," because he was paranoid about going bald. And I knew that his wife was unhappy. A small world, but his wife was one of my students. So it was a really small world, and she told me that she knew about it. And I had another student whose husband was having an affair with someone in another city, and he'd go up, and she knew about it too. Oh, hold on, what was the point about this? Yeah, sometimes they seem to know about it, but because they had kids and stuff, they kind of just accepted it. Now, the way the first woman dealt with it was she got a boyfriend. And her husband was apparently awful to her, but she had a boyfriend. And that's one reason she was studying English. Oh, all these cats. I don't know if you guys can see all the cats in the back. See all the cats back there? Little dot. The second one was a bizarre. I taught these 4 housewives in this kind of rich neighborhood. And we would go there. It was kind of a weird deal. I inherited this class from another gaijin. But I would go there and teach them for an hour. And then we would sit and have coffee and cake for 30 minutes. That was part of the deal. They just wanted to do that. And it wasn't a serious class at all. But they would talk about things, and as my Japanese got better, I understood more and more what was going on. But one of them had 5 children, and the reason she had so many children, ironically, was because her husband was having an affair, and she kept thinking, if I just have more kids, he'll stop. And he never did. He eventually got cancer and died, and left her with the 5 children. But by that time, 2 of her oldest kids were old enough to work and help out. And she lived in a really nice neighborhood, but all the other housewives knew about it. And I remember them talking about like their husbands who would about phone calls they would sometimes get at the house, and where someone would hang up. And they made I caught on when someone made this symbol, this gesture. They said, it's his girlfriend. This means girlfriend. I think this means boyfriend. This means girlfriend. So yeah, she was talking about her husband's girlfriend who would call and hang up. And of course now, our tendency is to judge and say, well, these are horrible. This is horrible. This is happening. These were really well-off families. They were really doing well. But yeah, I guess there was something kind of screwed up in that relationship, but in those relationships, and maybe it's even typical. But again, this kind of thing is kind of irrelevant for us because we are foreigners. So we're going to deal with things differently. So when my wife goes off or when I go off, we have better communication. So, you could enter a relationship like that where you have shitty communication, and then that kind of thing might happen, I suppose. Again, it's ridiculous for me to even be talking about this because I don't know you guys, and everyone's going to have a different experience. Everything I'm saying here are things that are based on personal experiences. So, because why bother with statistics? You guys can look up those statistics yourselves. And again, it's irrelevant because you're not a statistic. Here's another one. I got a foreign. Someone asked me years ago, why don't you get married, man? Because I was like still single, still hitting the bars and hitting the, you know what I'm saying, having fun. And the guy says, I got married, and I thought once I got married it would be over. I never have any fun anymore. But if you're careful, you can still have a little fun. So you should get married. That was his recommendation. Yeah, I think I made some slide like a. I think I might have said, oh, why buy the cow when you get the milk for free? Kind of, why sell for one woman? I probably made some kind of asshole-ish remark. I've never felt that way. I'm probably just joking around being a guy. And I think his response to me was, you should get married because you can still have fun on the side. And apparently he was. Yeah. So now I will admit, I will agree again with this guy who I'm making a video response to, which you should go and watch this video anyway, who says that a lot of Americans are under the impression that a lot of women are just dying to marry them. I've never been under that impression. I do know that quite a few women do want to experience a foreigner, but they don't want to marry one. Like, they just want to have a little fun. And in fact, the first woman I've ever fell in love with here in Japan, her parents said to her exactly that: have your fun, but remember, in the end, you're going to marry a foreign Japanese. So you could say, well, that's racism. Yeah, well, whatever. We didn't ended up getting married. I think the color that she was most interested in, that particular woman, was green, though, in the end. So yeah, there are a lot of women who are just interested in the experience, and he makes a lot of references to subjective not subjective. He makes a lot of references in his videos to experiences that he has and first-hand knowledge he has, but again, it's irrelevant because that's not going to be your experience. Everyone's experience is going to be different. So in the end, marriage with a Japanese person is just like any other marriage. It might work, it might not work. The fancier, the high, how do I say this? In general, I would say in any society, the fancier and the more high society it is, the more possibility of infidelity and the more acceptable that kind of thing is, and the more possible it is. Because remember, like he talks about, like I think one of his my impression was one of his friends her wife would go off every month or two to spend the night in another city, just for fun, and the husband didn't even know what she was doing or with who or stuff like that. If my wife, or if I went off to another hotel or something, we would definitely tell each other where we were and all the information, and we'd have contact numbers and shit. I think most couples with decent relationships would do it that way. I mean, if you're, hey, I'm going to go to Fukuoka and I'll be there for 2 days, and these are my contact numbers. You tell your wife where you are mostly if you have a healthy relationship. So the kind of relationship he's talking about does exist. I've seen that happen quite a few times, but I think that's mostly with people with money because it's expensive to cheat. You have to go to a hotel, right? I'm assuming hotels in Japan are pretty expensive. You probably wouldn't bring someone home because then the neighbors would know, and unless the person you were seeing was single, I suppose. But I have talked to people online, Japanese, who have told me, this is weird, as an American, an English teacher, people will tell you a lot of their secrets. There was one student I had who I taught on Skype, and I've never even met her, but she told me she was having an affair with her neighbor. But it was the most bizarre affair, like sex was the least part of it. They would sometimes find a few minutes in the middle of the week where they both had time. They would both go to their car, like they'd go into a car in the parking lot, and he would put his head in her lap and she would stroke it, and that was their moment of intimacy that they treasured. And sometimes they would have sex too, like things. I didn't ask details, like did you blow them? None, I assume. I'm thinking they had sex, but for her at least, the intimacy that she craved came from just spending a few minutes in a car in the parking lot while their respective spouses were away somewhere. I have a feeling they lived in the same apartment complex. I don't remember, it was years ago when I heard about that story. And there was another one of my students who became friends with my wife, and she told my wife, she says, I imagined I'll have an affair someday. My wife is like, what? She goes, when you get married, eventually you have an affair with someone. So I'll agree with him that kind of mentality does exist in Japan, but it doesn't necessarily have to exist for you. The other thing that he says, he refers to divorce and how there's a big taboo. It's still, considered a taboo in Japan to get divorced and things like that. Yeah, but again, you're a foreigner. And you're a foreigner. The rules don't apply. So yeah, I suppose there's Nagoya City back there. You see it? That's the center of the city. You can find out where I am now. Yeah, you're a foreigner, so all those rules don't apply. I've known a guy who's been married 3 times here. I know another guy's been married twice. Japanese women still agree to marry him, so it can't be that bad, right? At the end, oh yeah, and he talked the other way around too. Here's an interesting case too that gave me kind of hope. One of my wife's friends, a very good friend, ended up marrying a guy whose ex-wife was a woman from Thailand or something, and they had a beautiful boy. He looks Japanese, you can't really tell. He had a beautiful boy. Then she decided she wanted to go back to her country, so she left. And this Japanese guy ended up marrying another Japanese woman who happened to be my wife's friend. And she accepted the child of the firstborn, which is, I think, rare in Japan. Japanese are notorious. Do I say notorious? Japanese don't generally, are not interested in adopting children from other countries, generally speaking. In fact, I know one couple, a foreigner who and his wife wanted to have a baby and they couldn't. And eventually, he was like pushing for adoption, and she didn't want it. She'd rather not have a baby than adopt a baby. So that's how it is sometimes. Anyway, my wife's friend married a guy who already had a baby from a previous marriage, and they're fine. And then she ended up having her own kids later with him. So now they have a family, and I've seen them together. You know, I mean, if she doesn't love the son of her husband's, the offspring of her husband and his first wife, it's really hard to tell, because they have a great relationship there. So he's so happy with her, and they came to our house and we had dinner and everything, a little house party. So that kind of thing happens, you know. And again, it's not generally true. Like, you wouldn't, generally speaking, you wouldn't say Japanese are accepting of that kind of thing, but it does happen. And although adoption is very, very low here and people are generally not interested in it, it does happen. So all of those generalities are irrelevant. At the end of the day, it's just you and her. And I guess that's really all this video should say. It's generally just about you and her at the end of the day. Japanese women are just like women from all over the world. Except, like my friend said, their vaginas are horizontal. Remember that. That's something that I learned when I was 12 years old, because an older kid told me that. Anyway, of course I'm joking. That's just a crass juvenile joke at the end of the video, just to see if anyone is listening. So if you're listening, please tell me what's the most ridiculous stereotype you ever heard about any people's country, any country's people, yes. Mine would be, when I was, I think, 12 years old, I heard that Asian women had horizontally, they were horizontal, okay? They weren't vertical. So I thought, wow, it makes sense, you know, because their eyes are this way, so that, yeah, okay. Yeah, I was a kid, I was dumb. What do you think? I was more of a moron than I am now. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I will restate this one more time. Don't take advice from anyone on the internet. I hope you're watching this video just for fun. There are so many individual cases out there, so many different cases. There are a lot of people who are happy, a lot of people who are unhappy. In the end, it just comes down to the two of you. You can blame cultural reasons if you want. You can blame whatever you want. But at the end of the day, if you ask me, it's really up to you and her to make it work. Or you and him, if you were a woman watching this. Sorry about that. Oh yeah, I'll give you some other juicy shit. Divorce. Yeah. There's a bunch of assholes here who come over here and try to hit on the women, and they succeed, and they're very aggressive, and they basically make a bad name for all of us. But there are also a lot of crazy Japanese women willing to put up with that stuff, and and other ones who make our lives hell. There are tons of stories about women who have divorced their husbands and taken the children away. So you can go on and on about how many assholes there are here, but there are also an equal number of not bad, but there's an equal number of Japanese who are, you might consider, to be just as bad or worse. There's when it comes down to passion and love and taking care of your family, when people get divorced, you never know what people are capable of. I hope if you do ever get married, you just do your best to be honest, and if it works out, great, and if it doesn't, then get divorced and move on and try to find happiness. There is someone out there for everybody, and sometimes it takes a little time to find that person, like it did me. Someone who'd put up with my shit. But we're having a pretty good time. After the baby, it was really tough. The stress. I mean, that's another thing that to take into account. Things will change after you have a baby, and I guess that's kind of maybe another video, because this has gone on long enough. Thanks for watching this long ass video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and You know, nothing personal against the guy that I'm making the video response to. I did have some negative experiences with him, interactions with him back in the day. You know, it's a long time ago. I don't really know him. I agree with a lot of what he says, but I also think a lot of what he says is kind of, at the end of the day, it's all irrelevant because everything he says is based on his personal experiences, just like mine. So don't listen to us. Think about who you are with, and think about whether you are really ready for marriage or not. And spend a lot of time with that person. You know, don't be afraid to spend a lot of time with that person before you make that plunge, because hopefully it's forever, and hopefully you can create a really loving atmosphere, not just for you and him and her, but for the child. But lastly, do remember this: marriage is not. It's not a bed of roses. Marriage is work. At the end of the day, no matter what else has been said in this video, marriage is work, and it can be very fulfilling work and very rewarding work. But it's not going to be, you know, all romantic like it was in the beginning. And I think most of you know that, but sometimes you have to be reminded. Thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you soon. One last afterthought. Take this into consideration. Sometimes Japanese women marry foreigners expecting them to be different from Japanese men. Japanese men are notorious for being a little bit bossy and gruff and unappreciative of Japanese women. They don't say thank you. They don't say please. Give me a beer, honey. And not honey. Just give me a beer. And do this, do that. And they don't help with they're notorious for not helping with the housework. They're notorious for not helping with the kids. And sometimes they marry a foreigner with hoping that they'll be that kind of person. A person who, they're doing a lot of construction here. はい、全然。すいません、お邪魔して。こっちから、あっちから？こっちから？こっち？気をつけてください。はいはいはい。全然すいません。わあ、すごいすごい。すいません。はい、全然。Yes, I'm walking through all this. Whoop. Oh, that's how I lost. It's a good place to get rid of a ex-boyfriend or girlfriend. So at the end of the day, they might be marrying you thinking that you're going to be different from a Japanese man, and you might be marrying them thinking that they're going to be the perfect demure, submissive, whatever the hell you're looking for, kind of perfect, you know, whatever image you have of a perfect Japanese wife. And in the end, you know, you might be marrying each other with incorrect assumptions about what, incorrect expectations or unrealistic expectations. So keep that in mind. Okay, on with the video. Let him try. El tío no podía, ahora sí puede. Su barriga le suena.
If you need help, then dial your operator.